All right, we're live.
Welcome to Senate Chat. We're in a new week. Let's see, I think it's day 28. We're in week 5. We've got a week and a half left and 2 weeks and a I'm thinking week and a half might be nice.
14 days, 18 calendar days left, let's put it that way.
So, but we welcome you to our media availability and access to the public through the internet. Please send in your questions. We'd like to address them. And we'll start with media questions.
Do you expect Senate Bill 73 to come up this afternoon?
Yes, we'll be moving to the second reading calendar this afternoon, and Senator Mattson, I believe it's your intent to encircle.
I would hope so, yes.
Okay, so we'll have should have plenty of time, hopefully, to address the bill this afternoon.
Senator Mattson, the church just issued yet another statement about this. Your reaction to it.
Well, as I read through it, I believe that we can more than adequately address every topic that was brought forth here, and I don't know if we need to get into it now, but what do we do to make sure that we don't increase the likelihood of misuse, especially among youth? We can take that up, we can talk about that, and I know that any kid that wants it can get it on any high school within 10 or 15 minutes. And I've never suggested that this bill is going to cure that problem. The suggestion that this is going to be a substitute for street weed after it's gone through the rigorous growth and processing, the costs added by the licensing and the inspections, and the final product is going to be so much more expensive than what they can get on the street. The idea that this is going to contribute to more youth use is questionable at best. On top of that, again, I'm glad I have them with me. I didn't know I was going to do media availability. If you folks would like to see these, we just passed a bill on third reading based on an assertion that there were studies out there that showed, teen use going up. Apparently a study that shows that opioid overdose rates go up when states have a medical cannabis. There were claims made that was the basis of the bill being passed. I want to show you the studies that I have. I still haven't seen the other studies they claimed existed. So I've got, in addition to headlines that say legalizing medical marijuana has not increased teen pot use, medical marijuana opponents' most powerful argument is at odds with a mountain of research. What they're referring to are these 3 studies here. One in the Journal of Adolescent Health on teen use from 2013 that shows that adolescent use doesn't go up. Second study, this one is from Medical Marijuana Laws and Teen Marijuana Use, and this was published in, let's see, these are Department of Economics, Oregon University, okay? And the third one, Medical Marijuana Laws, Adolescent, and this is from JAMA. The Lancet, which I think is a public, the Lancet Medical Marijuana Laws and Adolescent Marijuana Use, USA 91 to 2014, results from annual repeated cross-sectional surveys. So I got 3 studies here that address this teen use concern. So let's pick up there, and let's see if there's anything else that we can do, anything else that might be suggested to take up that issue. And again, I won't take up the time. Again, the acknowledged need for scientific research, you bet. I don't think anything in my bill impedes it. In fact, I think creating populations of people with these conditions that have access to the medicine encourages research, obviously. And then we can talk about regulatory controls on manufacturing and distribution. We have worked to make this the absolute tightest program in the country. We've looked to see what other states are doing. And again, in most of the other states, if you're not looking at Colorado and California, most of the other states have not had the problems. Again, I'm looking for any substantive evidence that these states are having these problems. We've taken the measures that they have in place in other states. We've strengthened them where we can. I welcome a conversation on regulatory controls in manufacturing and distribution. And if anybody wants to come to the table with some ideas that would strengthen it even further, that's great. But when you've got all of the requirements about security, training of personnel, best practices, reinforced rooms, locks, if there's something else we can do, let's talk about it and do it. But I feel very confident that I can, again, go to my colleagues, those who are willing to reason and walk through this in a rational way, and I think I can address these points. So I'm very encouraged by the statement from the church. I think we're moving in the right direction.
Is there any openness to merge your bill with SB 89?
I have serious questions as to whether that would be functionally practicable. They come from such different philosophies, and the process of drafting the two bills was so dramatically different. I really have questions as to whether that could happen. I mean, just when we're talking, attempted to replicate. I mean, again, bureaucracies cost money. I'm trying to keep the cost down to the patients. I still can't. How the mechanism of growing, processing, and distributing is so different that I don't know that we'd be able to merge those two. I'm trying to think of aspects of the other bill that I want to answer your question. Hopefully we can come to a meeting of the minds, but I don't know that it would be a worthwhile objective to actually try and merge the two bills that come from such, again, the pedigree and the philosophy and the substance of the two bills is so radically different. I don't see that happening, frankly. I'm not saying it's not worth trying. I'm not willing, but I think that we need to come up with a solution probably through some other route than just trying to quote unquote merge the two bills.
Any other questions on medical marijuana?
So you talked a little bit about your change. You voted no last year. You said you're going to vote yes this year on Senator Madsen's bill.
I'm sorry, could you?
You said you voted no on Senator Madsen's bill last year, and I think this year you said you're going to vote in favor of it.
He actually voted in favor on second reading. Or no, we didn't say that.
Yeah.
He got up in favor of it on the floor.
Spoke in favor of it. What was sort of the pivotal point? I know you talked a little bit about your mother, but obviously that was pretty.
Well, last year, as the old saying goes, I voted yes before I voted no. But I voted no last year because in the debate that we were having, I could see that there was some real value in the research aspect. And I mentioned that I would vote no pending what occurred in that arena. The thing that drives me on this issue is pretty simple and basic. There's enough evidence that people who are suffering are benefiting, and people who are having seizures are benefiting. And to me, it has a long enough track record to this point that we could take the risk with these people who are needy. I mentioned my mother because she died of pancreatic cancer, one of the worst forms of cancer there is. And she suffered greatly. We told she got to the point where she couldn't communicate. Not because her mind was gone, but because the pain was so terrific. And she tried everything that the doctors could come up with to get some relief. I'm not saying that if my mother were alive that this would work for her, but I'm saying I've witnessed what pain is. And if we can close the door for a lot of folks with their pain and their seizures, it's an effort well worth it.
Any other questions?
Senator Hilliard, I was under the impression we'd get some budget numbers this morning. What's the status on those?
They're coming out in 4 weeks, don't worry. We can't plan on announcing that as soon as we start 4 times this afternoon.
Okay.
Why did you guys ask for an audit of the University of Utah Athletic Department?
Well, we discuss usually before our meeting, what are we going to prioritize? And We haven't audited any athletic department before, and some of the controversy that prior to our meeting created in our minds a need to, let's have a look at what's going on there. I think it's appropriate for the legislature to go in periodically in areas where we don't know what's going on and do an audit. And so that was the discussion that we had, and passed a motion to audit the athletic department and other entities here in the state. And we do that all the time, and so it's not uncommon for us to look at an organization within the state and audit it, especially if they haven't been audited before.
So in other words, they haven't, and because you can.
Yes. I think, was it Monson talked a little bit about that in the Tribune yesterday.
President Niederhauser, there's a couple of police body cam bills working their way through the legislature. Do you see something happening on that? It could affect public access and media access to those images.
Yes, and this is an area where, like medical marijuana, where we need to measure twice and cut once. Very careful about what policy the state enacts in both these areas. These are long-term policies for the state. A lot of questions, a lot of controversy, a lot of conflicting information, and it's difficult for the legislature to really get a consensus on these kind of issues because of all the information and the stakeholders out there that the lobbyists who are pretty emotional about one side or the other. And I don't have any prediction for it, but I think that we should take it one step at a time, incrementally, especially for the body cams, and do it very carefully so that we get this one right.
One of the issues in committee this morning is it the legislature's role or post's role to come up with a minimum statewide policy for that. What are your feelings on that?
I think that the legislature has a role, but we shouldn't preempt everything regarding body cams. And we have the committee chair here, Senator Mattson. I wasn't in committee, so I didn't even know it passed out.
It did pass. Unfortunately, I had to miss part of that debate myself. But I think that is the question as to whether we set that policy and we balance those things as a legislature and do our legislative work here, or if we push that to another unelected body and let them set policy in the hopes they'll do our job for us. I guess I'm biased.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and yeah, there's a lot of different ideas, but I believe there is a local component to this, but having some consistency, I think, is important for this issue going forward, and that's where the state really, I believe we do have a role in setting some policy here. Any other questions? Any from our viewers? Kirsten?
Not today.
All right.
30 of them.
Thank you for coming, and we'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully a little wiser.
And the day after, and the day after, and the day after.
That is red.